Hi, this is Nancy L.T. Hamilton, and today we're going to be working on supporting the cabochons, enamel cabochons that we made in the last video. This particular one we're going to be making is considered a frame. It can be backless or backed, and it's pretty exciting, so I'm going to show you that. So here's our little cabs we made in the last video, and this is the frame. This is how this one works. Kind of works. You push your cab up in here, so this would be the front of the piece, and at this point we're going to be cutting tabs in that can fold over the back, so you could keep your back open. This pretty much would have to become a pendant, but if you wanted to make a ring, we cut a little disc, solder on the ring shank, and then take the tabs, and the tabs come over and hold the piece in place. So we're going to be doing the ring today, and I'm going to show you how to make this frame setting. The first thing that we need to do is determine the diameter of the stone and the height of the stone, so we know how much metal to cut for our bezel strip. So we pull out our trusty little calipers here and our little cab that we made at the last video. And what you want to do is measure, try to do it up here, measure the width of the piece like that. And then you also want to, write that down unless you're really good at remembering things, but I'm not. And then we want to measure the height of this and write that number down. So now it's the math part. Oh my god. Oh, one more thing you got to measure. You need to measure your metal. And this is 22 gauge that I'm going to be making this out of. So those are the three things that you need to measure right off. Write them down. Then what you do is, I'm going to cut for a minute and get some paper and a pencil. So here is, I know you hate this, but you have to do this math to cut your strip. I'm using 22 gauge our gem metal. For this project you can use whatever gauge. Just remember, the thicker it is, there's adjustments that have to be made in the wall sizes. 28 gauge is really way too thin, so try to avoid it. It's just like paper. Give your beautiful cabochons the support it deserves. So we need to find how long to cut this strip. So the formula is that we got, remember those numbers we wrote down? We took this measurement from here to here, and that's this. Then you have to measure your thickness, which is another number we wrote down. So we need to add that together. So there we have that. And then this all gets multiplied by pi, which is 3.145 ad nauseum, ad infinitum, forever and ever. But we're going to abbreviate it to 3.145. And we come out with 65.86. I cannot figure out how to find a 0.86 on my tiny little millimeters, so I'm rounding it up to 66. It gives me extra wiggle room for filing the ends square. Then we need to do the height, and you want, for this type of setting, we need to do, the setting needs to be higher than the stone that we're working with, or in this case our enamel cabochon. So the height to the top of this dome is 6 millimeters, and I'm adding 1 millimeter on top of that for additional play, filing flat surfaces, and just because. So this is going to be our measurement, 7 millimeters wide by 66 millimeters long. And I mean it. So then what I want to do is, I want to have one really machined straight edge to work off of. So that's what I'm doing. And you're going to measure and mark 66 because you need to know how far to drag your line. Then what you do is you set your dividers to the 7 millimeters that we determined was the height of the stone. And then one leg goes on the outside of the metal and the other is on the interior, and then you drag along here, creating a score mark, which is really hard to see because I didn't push hard because I'm not making it out of this because I already did it over here. But if you can't see your scribe line, you can come in with, and mind you, I can't see it at all from here, so I don't know if this is straight. You can come in with a marker and mark it out, delineate it for cutting. which is the next thing I'm going to show you. So when you use these are French shop shears, and for the 22 gauge, you can actually cut 20 gauge with these. What you do want to do is keep this bottom, the heck is that called? Part of the scissor flat and flush up against the back side. On the top, which you can see in a second. Hello. We have to coordinate this. I'm going to be cutting outside the line, I hope. And it's just, you know, just use like a scissor. So you're going to try to go slow so that you do a nice, as clean an edge as possible. You are going to be cleaning this edge up even further down the road. And it will curl as it is right now. And we are going to pound that out in a second. So there's our strip. Now mind you, this is not the actual one we're using. This I'm making another smaller bezel with this, but I'm just using for example. So I'm going to go get my pounding stuff. So this would be easier if you went ahead and annealed the little strip, which I have not done. So I'm just going to show you what I would do if it was annealed or if it wasn't annealed. So if you don't want to mar it at all, you would stick a piece of wood on the top and bang on it. Oops, see, stuff flies around here. I would do that more times because it would need to be flattened more, but I don't want to drive everyone crazy. You can also just, you know, flatten from this side. Once again, I'm not going to do that. Don't forget to flip it, hammer, flip it. But honestly, it behoove you to anneal it in the first place, okay? So once we're done with that, then we're going to square up our edges. So I'm going to be evening the ends of my strip that I've cut with using my miter cutting jig vise thing. The truly flat side is the thing that gets put in against the peg in here. So I want to remember that this is the flat side for the other end. So what I'm going to do is I make a little tick or X down on the side that is square, so I know in the future where to put it. This will be my base when I solder it. There's a couple different reasons why I'd want to know where the completely square edge is. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to file off this edge here and square this up, and then I'm going to flip it, keeping this part on this peg when I do so. Or I can slide it right back down and do this end. Let me show you right now. Just go down like that and do this end. And you don't want to take off too much, you know, just leave just a tiny bit out there because we don't want to change. For goodness sakes, Marie. We don't want to take off too much material here, otherwise our bezel won't fit. So we're going to do that now and file this down, and I'll get back to you in a second. So with my, remember my little mark I made to know where my edge is, my flat edge, make sure that's on the inside. This is basically like making a ring shank. I'm just going to round this out. Hopefully without killing myself. And then I want to take it and flip it. Because remember, this is a conical shape, it's not parallel. And I want to start working it so that the edges come closer together. So I'll move down. Generally, I will do this. I will anneal it in between. You don't have to, but it makes it a lot easier, especially when the metal gets harder, like the Argentium and Sterling. So I'm going to anneal this, and we're going to continue the rounding of the bezel wall. Alright, so I'm done rounding the bezel, and we have a little gap here, as you can see. So what I'm going to do is push out, push in, and get these edges to like spring load. Now, one of the things that you have to make sure is that, remember that mark I made on the inside? I want to make sure that I line this edge up with on this side. If I lined it up here, you can see how it's off, and it wouldn't be square. It would end up being like that. So what we're gonna do is line the edge that's the nice beautiful straight edge, and then this edge will get sanded down flat after we solder the seam closed. Okay. If you have difficulty with joining these two together, you can always use, these are half round, one leg is round, so put the round side in. You can always use pliers to help finish that edge. You can also use flat pliers in there and squeeze this whole seam flat if you need to, and then just re-round it on your ring mandrel again. So I'm going to lightly sand this so that I've got a clean surface for putting solder on, and I'm going to do that now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my flux here on my seam, and I have Argentium hard solder, and I'm just going to cut a fairly hefty pallion, and I'm going to slap that on the seam like so. Whoop, and it will run down this side. So I'm going to put it along the seam here. This is held up with a cross-lock tweezer, and that's it. So I'm going to come in with a small, oh my goodness, a small bushy flame. Warm this up until my flux is boiled. There's a cat loose in my studio. Don't be surprised if you hear meowing. Oh, 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 oh. Soldering pick. See, told you she'd start yelling. But we're working here. Alright, now I'm going to turn this up. And I'm going to try to heat the piece evenly. Remember, we need the solder to flow from both sides at the same time. I want to make sure it's run down both ends. Alrighty. So that's that. I'm going to pickle it. And then we're going to do other terrible things to the metal. Yes, miss. Sorry.